Set. Okay. This should be the last thing. And now we're going. Okay. So, art of goal setting. Here we go. If you guys have the worksheet, you guys can follow along with it. It's only going to be for a brief moment. So if you don't have it, that's totally fine because I did add a slide kind of sharing what would be on that worksheet. So I'm going to start this webinar just with a quick story. So I'm going to talk about a client that I was working with a while ago, and she wanted to get in shape and keep up with her kids on ski trips. And so she set herself a goal to get back to her weight in college. And this was pretty much her New Year's resolution. I think we can all kind of familiarize with these kind of goals we set with for ourselves. So she set a goal for herself to be the number on the scale, which is about 25 pounds lighter at her weight she was in high school or college. So her plan to achieve this was to cut out 300 calories a day of food. She's going to run for 30 minutes every morning before breakfast and remove all carbohydrates from her diet. So long story short, she lost 10 pounds, but she didn't lose any body fat percentage, and she did have an ACL tear on day one with her kids on the slope due to just feeling tired. She felt weak, all that. So I tell you this story because we can all relate to failing at something we wanted to achieve because we just didn't have a good game plan in place for us to be successful. So throughout this presentation, I'm going to talk about 3 components we need that will help us be successful with our goals. So setting your intention. What is your motivation behind what you want to achieve? Is it personal motivation? Is it for a family member or friend? We have to identify our motivation since this will be our driving force when it comes to reaching our goal. The second thing we need to do is break down our barriers. We need to identify any current or potential obstacles that may inhibit us from reaching our goal. Our third objective will be to make our SMART goal. After identifying our motivation, we must understand the changes that will have to be made to our current habits and set up a game plan for execution. So setting our intention, we're going to start there. So often, setting our intention is the thing we fail to do when setting a new goal. We want to jump right in and start mapping out steps from getting us from A to Z as quickly as possible. But what happens when we aren't getting the results we want or feel like we have nothing to show for after all new changes we have made? We may get frustrated or sad that our plan gets disrupted in some way, and the next thing you know, we are no longer working towards our goal. So back to the example of my friend. I asked her why she set that goal of losing 25 pounds. She says, I just wanted to be able to keep up with my kids so I can spend more time with them. What if my friend had set her intention before she started working towards her goal? With the right intention, she could have taken a different and more achievable steps to meet her real goal. So right now, you guys can pause, and I want you to think about a New Year's resolution, just any kind of goal that you wanted to achieve this year or within a month or 2 months, and just ask yourself why. And this is kind of the awkward, like how kids might ask you questions like the repeated why, and just see if that trickles down into something. And I'm going to provide an example using my friend. So I asked her, what goal would you like to achieve? She says, lose weight. I ask, why? Keep up with my kids on a ski trip. Why? So I can spend more time with them. Well, why? Because my schedule has been incredibly busy recently. Why? Because I have had a promotion and my workday has doubled in time. And then the last one, why? Because I haven't yet organized my day to prioritize my deadlines and projects. So within doing this, we realize that our resolution isn't just to lose 25 pounds and go back to our weight in college. It's that we want to have more time to spend with our kids, and that might be setting up more organization throughout our day, or just kind of different resolutions that might help with setting this said goal. So she can still lose weight. I'm not saying that shouldn't be her goal, but there might be some underlying resolutions that she hadn't yet thought of, and that might get her to that goal a lot sooner and less difficult. So if you guys thought of something, just kind of cruising through why, see if you can kind of like dig a little bit deeper into that resolution and find out if there's something underlying there too. So finding your motivation. Now we're going to walk through a worksheet that will help us discover our it statement. This will help you focus on what drives you and where you want to be rather than focusing on the end result. So if you guys have this worksheet, you can reference that now, but if not, I'm going to use this next slide just to show you kind of the one thing that you're missing from this presentation. And I'm sorry if it's a little bit blurry, it was a last minute screenshot. So all of these topics contain words, and you guys can think of 10 words. If you don't want to write it down, you can just make a little tick mark next to them as you go along. There doesn't have to be a balance between each box. You can choose however many you want from one box and move on, but you want to choose 10. After you've done that, I want you to circle or just write down 3 of these words that you've chosen out of the 10. So I'm going to slow down what I'm saying now as you guys kind of peruse over this, and you can think of it in your head and then really hone in on those 3 words. And after you've done that, create a vision statement using those 3 words and try to make this statement within a 5-word sentence. So just super condense. How can we fit those 3 words that you chose into just a mission statement or a vision for yourself? So I'm just going to pause for a little bit. All right. And we don't have to get too carried away. So once you kind of have an idea of those 3 words that you've chosen out of the 10 that are moderately important to you, then I'm going to go ahead and move on. So now we're going to go to a decisional balance sheet exercise. So you hold on to your vision statement that you've created or some sort of resolution that kind of goes inside with that sentence that you just came up with. So every decision to do something different or make a healthy change involves an upside and a downside. This is also true with the decision to do nothing. The decisional balance sheet is a simple approach that can help you build a clear vision of your goals in regards to quality of life. It is important for you to own your change and build a sense of accountability to yourself and your actions. So using this chart, you guys can either do this in your head or write it down, but you're going to have these 4 sections and just kind of think of a sentence for each. So using the top of the chart, think about the disadvantages of taking no action towards making this change. Take a moment, think of how that would be, and you can either write it down or just remember it. So now, moving on, think of all the advantages of taking no action towards making this change and jot your thoughts down. Next, think about all the disadvantages of taking action towards making this change. And lastly, think about all the advantages of taking action towards making this change. So the disadvantages and the advantages of taking action, and the disadvantages and advantages of taking no action. And I'll go ahead and pause here so you can kind of collect some general thoughts of how it would be easy if we don't make a change, the downsides of that, and the advantages of if we did make a change, and the downside of that. And there's a good example right below it. So that's a long enough pause, maybe. So this is where we want to identify simple strategies to avoid the barriers. So block 4, actually I'm going to go back, sorry. Block 4 represents the positives that will emerge if you start making changes, and block 1 represents the reality that you will face if you carry on as you do now. Blocks 3 and 2 represent our barriers to change. So this is where we want to identify simple strategies to avoid these barriers. Block 3 represents the roadblocks that need to be avoided when making a change, and block 2 contains all the bad habits and non-conscious excuses that may trip ourselves. So Now that you know your motivating it factor, the intention to why you are working towards your goals, and understanding why it's important to you puts you in the mindset of taking action for a reason. We also want to be self aware. This allows us to really understand what we are capable of at this time. Are the changes we are making feasible, or are they out of reach? Setting ourselves up for success is important when starting out to reinforce our positive thought process and self image. Lastly, we must understand the steps to achieve our goals and the strategies we need to utilize to reach them through process and execution. So breaking down barriers. And I'm just going to start with a personal story. So I know one resolution I had last year when we were working on campus is I wanted to start going to bed earlier, and I needed to move my workouts to the morning instead of stockpiling them at night, along with making my own dinner and getting other chores done. And my biggest barrier was that I would start reading emails first thing in the morning, scrolling through Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff, versus waiting to start work when I arrived on campus. So, not allowing myself enough time to get my personal priorities done uh, didn't really help me make any sort of progress on my sleeping patterns. So, my biggest barrier was the one that I didn't even identify, which was time management. So identifying barriers and obstacles is a way we can be proactive in our journey to reaching our goal. Think about the goal you have set. Is your goal something you have failed at in the past? That's okay. Failures help us learn how to improve. If your goal is something you have not been able to accomplish before, think about why and what you can do to avoid that at this time. If your goal is something new, try to identify any obstacles you can foresee ahead of time and figure out ways to combat them. As my friend in the beginning of this webinar I told you about, as she reflected on how she could have spent more time with her kids while working on achieving a healthy weight, she noticed that she had several opportunities to bring her kids along to get exercise together. Her kids liked to explore the local trails, while she thought running on an empty stomach would burn the most fat. This could have been a 2-for-1, while A, she could have had breakfast with the kids before getting outside, and B, improving her fitness and strength with walking up steep hills that are usually avoided. This would also fit in her 2-hour free gap before she had to start work. So much like my friend and most clients, barriers almost always, almost, always, boil down to one of our two things: time and or motivation. These are not only the two, but in my experience, they are the most common. Work-life balance in technology puts us in a tough spot. Everything and almost everyone is lobbying for our time. Our kids, jobs, sports, Netflix, social media, and Facebook. That's where identifying your it factor and previous or potential barriers before starting to work towards your goal will really benefit you to be successful. The last key component to goal setting is to create a SMART goal. So there's many different acronym goals that people can do, but today I'm just going to identify a SMART goal and how to create that for yourself. So I love this quote: a goal without a plan is just a wish. I can say, oh, I'd love to lose 10 pounds or have more energy to be creative, but if I haven't made a plan to reach those goals, I'm not going to reach them. It's merely a wish or a thought without the appropriate action put into place. So that brings us to the question of what exactly is a SMART goal? A SMART goal is specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time sensitive. Research shows that the more specific a goal is, the more likely we are to stick with it. Declaring you want to eat more vegetables or you want to start doing a boot camp class to increase your physical activity are examples of being specific. Goals should also be measurable. Give your goal a quantitative measurement to help you know when you've reached it. For example, I want to eat 3 servings of vegetables a day, or I want to work out 4 times a week. You should also attach a specific action to your goal to help identify how you're going to achieve it. For example, I want to grocery shop and prep my vegetables on Sunday for the week. Or I want to attend the Tuesday, Thursday bootcamp class on Mondays and Fridays, run outside. One of the most important things to do in making a SMART goal is to make it realistic to attain. This will help set you up for success and not disappoint. Back to my previous examples, if you weren't eating any veggies during the day, you may start by just adding in one a day for the first week and slowly increase to reaching the three a day, your ultimate goal. Or if you aren't working out at all, maybe you can plan to start with one boot camp class and one outdoor activity on your own until you can work up to 4 times a week. In the past, when I haven't worked out for a few weeks and then go all in, where I'm training for most days of the week, it can get really discouraging because my body is sore and the workouts aren't fun because I didn't ease back into it. Last but not least, goals should be time sensitive. Give yourself a timeline or an end date to help keep yourself on track. An example of this would be saying, I want to get up to 4 servings of veggies a day in 2 months. Or I want to be able to take a high intensity boot camp class in addition to exercising on my own 3 days a week by the end of the quarter. When your goal is specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time sensitive, it becomes more obtainable to reach. So, in summary, we can all set ourselves some successful goals by remembering to set our intention so that when the going gets tough, you have the motivation to continue pushing yourself forwards toward your goal. 2, break down barriers by identifying current or potential obstacles. Practice positive thinking and avoid negative self-talk to see success. Remember, the process is not a race, and each step towards your goal is one more step you were taking than the day before. And 3, set SMART goals. To create solid goals, you want to identify your motivation for meeting those goals, understanding the changes that will have to be made to your current habits, and set a game plan for execution. And this is our small action item checklist. So once you've identified your it factor, and if you didn't have this worksheet or you want to create this multiple times, because you don't have to create your goal in one sit down session. If you come back to this and come up with a vision that you're really excited about and it's something that you have identified barriers and kind of executed a plan, then you can create your SMART goal and give yourself a timeline and a very actionable, realistic plan to reach those. So that was a whirlwind. I am open for any questions. I'm excited that we're recording this live, so anyone can kind of join in and ask any sort of questions. So I guess, let's see. I'm going to check here to see if there's any questions. I'm not seeing any, so someone can jump in and ask questions if they have any, unless I am looking at the wrong tab. Hello, good, how are you? Yeah, no, that's a really great question. I think it can be from, I mean, today sitting down and just kind of self-reflecting. If you've never done that, I think that you can learn a couple valuable things about yourself. And then once you start with that goal you set with just really small changes, every week, maybe in a month, you realize, okay, well, the direction that this goal is pointing me in has actually opened a new chapter. Say we're going back to I want to work up to one class a week. And you've discovered that this class you tried, you really enjoy it, but you're more interested in a spin class or something kind of a different genre. And that takes you into even getting your own bike and then planning how many miles you want to ride. So I think starting small with goals, if you've never really set one for yourself, can really expand to something bigger. So I think it can be from like a week and then even a year and on to just kind of as you keep raising the bar, as I said, how you kind of ease into things, I think that you can learn a lot about yourself, and then maybe changing what those goals are. But the more that you actually reflect and ask yourself questions, I think those can kind of change. So before I keep rambling on, does that kind of answer your question? Sweet. Yeah, no problem. Any other questions? Hello. No, that's also a great question. I think that if we kind of look at uh, um, exercise as a stress, because really anything we do is a stress, whether it's work, physical, emotional, all that. We need to take small steps towards that too. So, say if you want to start adding in these fitness classes, but you've recently had something at work come up, big projects, big deadlines, just kind of understanding that you're not putting too much on your plate and thinking, instead of setting yourself up saying, I'm going to do 60 minutes of running or strength training 3 times a week, maybe you can only squeeze in 20 minutes a week, and it's twice a week or once a week, and just know that that physical stress is going to make you a little bit more tired. It's going to maybe motivate you to have a little bit of an increase in food, and make you need to understand like your sleeping pattern a little bit more. So kind of just being more aware of how much stress like you're putting in your glass, if you will. You don't want it to overflow. And then to go back to your question, I think I always look at nutrition first and think of nutrition as a bank account. So if I can tell myself that I think I'm getting regular meals with enough calories that is fueling me for the day that I've already got, and I can regularly eat these foods made of like real ingredients. I don't have to skip meals. I don't have to order fast food because I don't really have a plan. Then that's when I would think, okay, these are some small adjustments that I can make. And do I have enough calories in my bank account, if you will, to afford these exercises? Um, so if we're going throughout the day and just having small snacks, not really hitting kind of our daily caloric needs, or maybe our calories are just off balance, if you will, like a lot are coming from processed foods, liquid calories, all that kind of stuff. What can we make change so that we can recover from this workout? And if our goal is to get toned, do we have enough calories to refuel our body, start the recovery process so that our muscles can recover and we're ready for the next workout? So, prioritizing if your nutrition can get you or afford you more exercise, if you're planning on making your workouts longer or more intense, then you're ready to move on. And then if you can allow yourself the appropriate amount of sleep and hydration, then as far as changing body composition, those are the barriers, if you will, that I would consider. Like, can I get enough water in a day? Do I get enough sleep? Am I eating enough food that I can start adding these extra things onto my daily routine, and I'll be able to successfully move forward with them? That's my long answer. Yeah, no problem. All right. Any other questions? Sweet. Well, I think that I can just wrap it up there. So I am going to finish recording this. And then if you guys have not seen, I started the Samsung Fitness page, and I will have this video linked so that you can reference it. Obviously, you guys were here and saw it, but if you wanted to go back and reference any of the information, this will be up on that site. And if you didn't get a chance to see the worksheet that I provided, you can also contact me, or the link should be in this meeting that you guys can see it. But otherwise, if you just don't know how to get it, just send me an email and I will include it. So that is it. I am happy that everyone here was able to join and this was fun. Yeah. Yeah, no problem. Thank you guys. You too. I guess I don't really know how to end this. There we go. Stop sharing. All right, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.